Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today's block is called Blueberry Patch. This is a 8-inch block, so it's quite a bit smaller. This one has quite a few pieces in it, and these little 4-patch units here are 1-inch pieces, so they're small. 1-inch finish, so you cut them at 1.5. But I think it's an interesting block, and of course you can enlarge this to make a 16-inch block if you want, or any other size in between. Anyway, I hope you'll stay with me and I'll show you how to make the blueberry patch block. Here are the fabrics you're going to need to make the blueberry patch block. For A, you will need 1 3-inch square. For B, you'll need 1 3-inch square. C is 8 1.5-inch squares. D is 2 3-inch squares. E is 4 2.5 by 4.5-inch rectangles. F is 8 2.5-inch squares, and G is 8 1.5-inch squares. So I'm going to adjust the camera and we'll get started making this block. Okay, we're going to start by making half square triangles with the A square and one of the D squares. There's 2 D squares here. I'm going to set one of these aside. So we're going to make another set of half square triangles with the B and the D square. Now my A and my B squares, I've drawn a diagonal line on the wrong side, and that'll help me make these half square triangles. So I'm going to put them right sides together, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of this drawn line. Okay, I'm going to cut on this drawn line now, and this will give me 2 half square triangles. So we'll have a red and a blue one, just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with the B and the D squares. Okay, cut these apart. And then we have a pink and a blue square now. So I'm going to press both of these. Okay, so I have them all pressed. Now I need to trim these down to 2.5 inches square. Now they're just a tiny bit larger than 2.5. But not much. But I'm going to go ahead and trim those down, and it also helps square them up. Okay, so now we need to make the center of the block with these squares. So we're going to put them in alternate positions. So we're alternating the colors, and we're going to sew those together. So I'm going to sew those 2 and then those 2, and then sew the sections together. I press the seams, the blue and the red, I press towards the red. The pink and the blue, I press towards the blue. And that way, these seams will nest together, and I'll get a better result that way in the point here. And do the last 2. Okay, and now I'm going to press these. Sorry, I forgot to adjust the camera, but here's the top row. Here is the bottom row. So I'm going to press these seams both towards the red fabric and then sew these 2 rows together. Okay, so we got 3 seams to match. We're going to match the diagonal seams at the beginning and the end, and a straight seam there in the middle. So I'm just going to line those up and I'm going to pin them. Okay, now we're ready to sew. All right. So here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and press this seam open to help alleviate some of the bulk here on the edges. Okay, so all done. And let's move on to the 4 patch units, and that will be the C and the G squares. Now my C fabric is directional, so I'm going to sew those all in the same direction. We're making 4 patch units, so we should have 8 of each piece here. And just getting them separated is the biggest challenge. Okay, so right sides together, and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, now I'm going to sew those into a 4 patch. So I'm just going to alternate the colors. Okay, now we need to make flying geese units, so we need the F squares and the E rectangles. And we're going to place a square on the right hand side of the rectangle, and sew from the center top to the lower right hand corner. And if you've drawn a diagonal line on there, you just sew right on top of that line. I am using my tape that I have on my machine, and I'm just following that. Okay, we're going to cut these apart. And I'm going to trim the outer corner, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So we'll have that. So do that for all 4 pieces, and I'll press that triangle back. Okay. Okay, so those are pressed. Now I need to sew a square onto the opposite side, doing the same thing, going from the top center to the bottom left-hand corner at this point. Okay, so here are all the flying geese units. So now we're ready to lay out the block and then we'll sew it together. Okay, so we have all of our pieces here. Now we need to set this out in rows. So here's our center piece. I'm going to put that right here. Our flying geese units are going to point towards the center. These are our side units. Okay, so we have our flying geese units. Now we need to add our 4 patch units. And they go like that. So if you have a directional fabric, you need to watch those. What you can do is just lay out all of your pieces in your 4 patch blocks before you sew them, so that you know you've got all of your fabrics going the right direction, because these 2 4 patch units are mirror image of this, so it's going to make a difference. But anyway, now we're ready to sew things into the rows. We have row 1, row 2, and row 3, and then we'll sew all 3 rows together and the block will be done. And I'm going to match points here. So I'm going to go through the point on each piece with my pin to line those up. And then pin that in. Okay, and I'm going to press these and then I'll sew the rows together. Okay, one more row. Oops, that slipped a little bit. Okay, here's the finished block. I think that turned out pretty well. I need to press it a little flatter, but otherwise it's good. This is an 8.5 inch unfinished block. Has a lot of pieces in it for an 8-inch block, but you can double this and make a 16-inch block, or make it into a 10-inch block, whatever you want to do. 12-inch block would be good too. Anywhere, here is the blueberry patch block. Okay, that is it for the blueberry patch block. So this one was fun to make, and I think it's going to look really good in a quilt. And I hope you'll give this one a try. Now if you like this video, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links, and to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.